All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the new Ridgeline podcast. I'm Devin Dungan, and here with me, as always, is Mr. Stephen Mott. How you doing, brother?
Great brother Jake.
All righty, so we are back on another brand spanking new episode for you, and today we are going to be talking about the final album of the Van Halen discography, studio-wise. I'm talking about A Different Kind of Truth from 2012. So, yeah, this was the last hurrah for the band. I'm not sure if it was really intended that way, but it just kind of unfortunately happened that way. But, yeah, in my opinion, really, really strong record, a good finale to the discography, but we'll both get more into the album in our track by track and tell you how much we, at least me, enjoys the record. And yeah, I mean, this record was in production for a very long time. I mean, it went through several different variations. I've saw anywhere from a demos based record or compilation to a demo slash greatest hits compilation to a best of David Lee Roth years compilation. And it then came down to the band going in and recording a brand new album. And really and truly, this is not all original material. It dates back throughout several sessions. You have, for instance, like the sessions from 2000, where the band got back together with Diamond Dave, and there's at least 4 songs on here that dates back from those sessions. Then you have, supposedly, I've heard that some of these songs are from the aborted second album with Gary Sharon. Now, I don't have solid proof on that, but I have seen online that a couple of these songs, one in particular that I saw on the list that I remember, was supposedly supposed to be on that record, but who the heck knows? But yeah, I mean, the first since 1984 to feature Diamond Dave, the first studio album wise, the song wise was the best of Volume 1 with those 2 tracks on there. And this is the first album since Diver Down not to be recorded in 5150. This was recorded outside of 5150 Studios. It went gold in Canada, and I'm not sure of the certifications here. I would assume it'd probably be gold. I mean, this was a pretty hyped record at the time. It went number 2 on the Billboard 200, but went number 1 on all other charts in the U.S. 2 commercial singles off of the album, I believe 2 videos as well. And yeah, I mean, just a really, really strong record, like I said. And I didn't always feel this way about this record. When I first heard this album, I really did not like it. I actually thought it was not great. I thought that the production wasn't good. I didn't think the songs were that strong. It was definitely, I don't think at the time, exactly what I was expecting. And over the years, after many, many listens to it, I mean, to me, this is a masterpiece. And I mean, like I said, we'll get into the songs and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, to me, this is a masterpiece of a record. This is classic, real Van Halen, the Roth era, even though, I mean, it's not the original band. It's 3/4 of the original band, or 3 out of the 4 original band. But yeah, I mean, I love this record. So, Steve, take your opening thoughts and opinions on this record.
Well, my opening thought would be my I don't know, I can't exactly remember the first time of me hearing this, but I mean, I don't think I've ever until today attempted to actually listen to this record all the way through at once. But I've here lately I've kind of been, going here and there and picking spots and just choosing one to listen to here and there. Look up Van Halen on YouTube, click on the channel, and go to this album and just because it's something different, than VH2, one, whatever else. It's just something different and newer, and but anyway, I think that I will say to start off that if you listen to Mammoth by Wolfgang Van Halen and you listen to this record, you can see the influence that Wolfgang had on this album, and I'll get into that a lot later, but a lot, but I mean, you can just hear it in some of the background vocal choices, and I mean, he is really all over this record. Obviously he plays bass on all of it, but I mean, and the influences, he influenced this record through and through, uh, in my opinion, and it's what it sounds like to me. So anyway, so back to you, Devin.
All righty, and just to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying there with Wolfgang's influence, this entire project was spearheaded by Wolfgang. He heard these songs and he was like, "Let's do something." And they presented them to Dave. Dave loved it, and then they eventually presented the project to John Shanks, I believe is the producer's name. I almost said Don Shanks, but that's the actor who played Michael in Halloween 5. But John Shanks, I believe, is the producer's name. They presented it to him. He really liked the songs they had at the time, and basically the project started from there. But yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and dive on into the track by tracks here. So the first song on here is Tattoo. So the first single off of the record, a really good song, but to me, not the best opener. I think that another song coming up would have fit much better as the opener for this record. This maybe would have fit better as maybe the second or third song on here. And this was originally a song called, I believe, Shot Down in Flames or Down in Flames, something like that. And this also to me was not the right choice for the first single. I think this was a mistake as the first single. I think when a lot of people heard this, they were like, "Oh gosh, what are we getting now?" I mean, this in many ways is kind of reminds me of like Your Filthy Little Mouth, David Lee Roth, which I like that record, but I mean, a lot of people were like, "Okay, Dave, we've heard enough from your solo career." But I mean, like I said, though, I do like the song, and it's got great production. I actually dig the production going back and preparing for this episode. I think the production is classic Van Halen to me. It has a very heavy bottom end sounding production, but I really dig it. I think it really has this very kind of organic vibe or organic sound going to it, not vibe. And the ending of the song is basically a throwback to You're No Good from Van Halen 2, and I love that a lot. And in terms talking about like the Diamond Dave solo stuff, this is kind of to me the most commercial sounding song. This is kind of something that sounds the most maybe like Jump or I'll Wait or something like that. But yeah, I mean a really good song though. I mean without all the gripes and stuff like that in it. I mean I do like the song. The lyrics are Day through and through. I mean, just look them up, and I'll talk about some of the lyrics coming up. But I mean, the lyrics are Diamond Dave through and through. So, Steve, take Tattoo.
Well, this one was done live for the live album that ensued this record that didn't come out till 2015 apparently, but recorded in 2013 to my knowledge. But this song was on that live record as well as at least a couple more that I know of. But besides that point, I digress. The video for for this not record, this song, uh, the video I've got here, the video is kind of like it's back to the Jump video. It's kind of like the Jump video. It's just the band there, and that's all the video is. It's just the band playing on the stage, and somehow Dave can make a way to make that entertaining. You know, I mean, and Eddie and the other band too, but mainly Dave. Like that. That's his strong suit. That's his. best, virtue is his ability to make something simplistic like that entertaining. But that's just an example. But you know, like with the twirls and stuff, that's the next video. But I'll get into that later. Um, Eddie during this whole era, um, this the newer, if you will, era, is just in great form. It's just, I mean, just phenomenal form, and I mean, just as good as back in the early days. I mean, in my opinion, and Wolfgang is just great. I mean, he just on this whole record, but this song and every song, and has a short haircut also, and it has a keyboard overdub, kind of something like "I'll Wait" or something in that vein, in that way. But off of '84. But then one more point I would like to make is it's a good song. I like it, but also live, it seemed like Wolfgang really took over the song because of his backing vocals. He almost like screamed it out like the backing vocals, and kind of on that whole live record. But it came out really good that way. But anyway, after my long banter, you see how this episode is going to turn out here. Lots of notes. So back to you, Devin.
All righty, and yeah, I forgot about the video for this. I didn't even watch it in preparing for this episode, but I've seen it a couple of times. Yeah, it's just like you said, the band up there performing. And in terms of like keyboards and stuff, this is the only song on here that has keyboards on it. The rest of it is basically, if it sounds like keyboards, it's guitar effects, and that to me is what they needed to do with this particular album. They needed to get back to sort of the more straightforward stuff, which is kind of the way they were going in like the 90s and stuff. They were kind of sort of getting back to that, but I think they hit a home run with this particular album in terms of that. But I mean, even going back to the two songs Dave recorded with them for the Greatest Hits album in '96. I mean, they were very straightforward, and I think with a band like this and the kind of music that they're playing that's very heavy, I think definitely. I mean, if there's going to be keyboards, it either needs to be kind of like a Hammond type organ or something, or Hammond organ, or kind of low in the mix sort of thing, or maybe if they're going to do synths or something, kind of middle range, not very out in the open. Like, and I'm not saying anything against Jump or any of the other keyboard oriented songs, but yeah, I mean, to me, this one in terms of implementing keyboards into the sound, this kind of reminds me of like in the Cradle Will Rock in terms of having the keyboards and stuff in there. It works kind of in a similar vein to that. But yeah, we move on to the next track, She's the Woman. So this is classic Van Halen to a T. I love this song. Quintessential Van Halen, a reworking of an old song of the same name. I believe only the lyrics were rewritten and some of the other parts of the song. I'll get there in just a minute. To me, this should have been the opener of the album. I think this would have been a much, much better opener. Should have been the first single off of here, not the second. And the breakdown in the middle of the song, right before the solo, was reworked because originally it had the breakdown of Mean Street, or the breakdown that later went into Mean Street from Fair Warning. And to me, this is by far one of the best songs on this entire record. How this song didn't make it to a Van Halen album from the six pack, I'll never know. I mean, it could fit right in on any of those records. And the lyrics, I mean, are classic Diamond Dave. I talked about the lyrics in the first song. Classic Diamond Dave. And yeah, I mean, just a great, great song. So, Steven, take She's the Woman.
Well, no, track number two, She's the Woman. Also, probably shot in, I don't know if that's the right term, but it was probably shot at the same time as Tattoo music video was, and they're kind of back to back. To start off the record, I kind of like that idea. And from these two first songs have kind of a similar sound, production and everything else wise. But then everything else from here on out, past this on the record, is completely different. And so, well, not completely different, but it's different than these tracks. So, um, these are more commercial tracks. These first two, but the rest simply aren't. So, all right, and it's an interesting thing in the video. Excuse me, that he's doing the baton twirls or whatever those are, sticks or whatever, and that didn't go too well for him one time live. I think it was like on Kimmel Live or something. He hit himself in the nose, but I thought that was interesting thing to bring up. That's what that reminded me of. And I had written "Cause Some Issues" live, but besides the point, it seems to me like it belongs on Van Halen too. It's like something right from that record, and just the song itself, and it's kind of like I mean maybe I don't want to say anthemic, but something along those lines. But anyway, lack of a better term, and you can hear the bass very well on this record. Probably because they wanted it to really stand out, and two because Wolfgang he had like I said before. Well, I read in Eddie's book that Wolfgang really he forced his input in uh, quite a bit during the making of this album. Working it up in the studio and everything else. He really he really asserted himself, and also it shows when you listen to it. You can hear the bass, you can hear every instrument clearly, but also, I mean, if you just listen to Wolfgang, just listen to the bass and like just the feels he adds and just the way he matches note for note parts of the solo and parts of the riff and like the intros. And it's just the technical ability of this band is just unmatched. And there's people that can play this stuff, but can you write it? That's the thing. You can play fast notes, but this kind of stuff is fast, but yet you really good too and really melodic. But anyway, besides the point. Point is that I mean this is just a really well thought out and produced record. And this particular song is really good. I like it, and I like Tattoo. Also, I think of these two in the same vein. When I think of one, I think of the other. Just right there together for whatever reason. And but anyway, uh, and I this is this is gonna be an interesting comment. And Dave shows his tail at the end of the video, literally. So that's what I have written down. And whether that makes it to the actual episode or not, I don't know. But back to you, Devin.
All righty, and yeah, talked about the whole thing with Wolfie. I mean, and I'm gonna get to that more on another song coming up. Well, there's actually a few of the songs coming up. I'm gonna talk about that whole thing, but the the whole thing of Wolfie and Eddie just playing off of one another. To me, Wolfie was the bassist that Eddie always wanted in Van Halen. He wanted someone who could do all of the. He wanted someone who was basically himself on bass. And I remember hearing like he wanted Billy Sheehan to join the band. That would have been something interesting, but of course, Billy Sheehan ended up going to David Lee Ross band. But yeah, I mean, the next track on here is You and Your Blues. So I'm not sure if this was a single or not. It may have been a promotional single. I know it wasn't a commercial. I think there were only, like I said, two. But I recall seeing a video for this a long time ago. It may have been something different. I just looked on YouTube and all I could see was like a track by track thing. And then it said something about an official video, but it could be just a fan made ordeal. I'm not real sure. But the lyrics are mostly throwbacks to old blues songs, and I really like that. And this is one of my favorites on the record. And one thing I will say out of the entire song, there's one thing that could have made this song better, and that is Michael Anthony on the background vocals. With all the ahs and stuff during the course of this song, Michael Anthony would have put this song through the roof. It may have would have ended up being my favorite song on the record. But yeah, those Michael Anthony background harmonies and stuff would have made this song even better than what it is. But yeah, I do love this song. This is the first song on the record that is a brand new song that was written specifically for this record. And you can also hear Wolfie singing during kind of the not it's not spoken word. I cannot think of the phrase to describe it. It's basically Dave sings a line and then the background vocals repeat it, but you can clearly hear that it's Wolfie singing that repeated line. And I never noticed that until listening to this album today. And great solo, classic Eddie with the wah and all. I mean, great stuff there. Dave actually sounds really, really good throughout this whole entire record. I hadn't talked about him vocally yet, but he sounds really, really good on this record. I think he does a really great job. I'm sure there were some studio magic used, or there was some studio magic used, but I mean, he sounds really, really good. And this also kind of has vibes of sort of Diamond Dave's solo stuff in a way, kind of like something from Your Filthy Little Mouth or like the Diamond Dave record, even the couple of new songs he just put out. And I saw in an interview online where Wolfie compared this to Van Hagar, saying that melodically this was more in kind of the vein of the Hagar era, but he thought that this song ended up turning out really, really well. But yeah, Steven, take You and Your Blues.
Well, me, I don't really particularly love this track, and um, I don't know. It just wasn't that great to me, melodically or however you want to say it. But um, I got here that I already said that Wolfgang had loads of input, and this particular song, to me, is where it really the influence really shows, and really starts here and goes through the whole rest of the record. It's got Wolfgang all over it, and just the backing vocals, the style. I mean, just you can tell some of the structure. I can tell some of the stuff was Wolf's idea, probably, if I had to guess, because I mean, instead of a straight rock thing, it was straight rock, but at the same time, they had all these crazy through the whole record, like all these different parts, and it just when you're listening to each song, it's like it goes into in different parts and different rhythmic changes and different parts, and just keeps adding and adding and adding until the very very end. You don't sometimes if you hadn't heard it, you really won't know where it's going. It starts off, I don't want to say predictable. It sounds bad, but a typical rock song is going to be, it's going to have the loop of the riff, but over and over, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But this this record, it's like rhythmically, it was trying to break that up some. If that makes any sense. And it seems like Dave still with this record always has had a different effect on Eddie than any other the other two, Sammy and Gary, because just it's something. All three of the singers had a different effect on Eddie. I don't know if it was just because of the songs they chose. You know, I mean the riffs that they chose to work with. Seems like Sammy said he was a lot more picky and choosy about what riffs he chose. Like he kind of rejected more than he chose, And Gary probably just took everything that came in. But not saying that's good or bad. But Dave, it's hard to tell with him. But it does seem like that Dave pushes only guitar. He doesn't really like keyboards. I mean, in Van Halen, and he doesn't really. I mean, he wants it to keep it as straight rock as possible. He doesn't want it to get too adventurous as far as Eddie's. Eddie can get, you know, off the wall if you let him, and he just didn't let him. That's the way I see it. But he tried to keep Eddie as straight forward as possible, riff wise, and then just solo one little short solo per song. The structure the same, but Wolf kind of tried to change it up a little bit. But let's see what else I've got. It's just kind of hard to put a finger on it, but it's like Dave had an effect on Eddie to where it turns out really. I think it's the best version of Van Halen if you look at it in that way that I'm talking about. But anyway, that's about all. But for you and your blues, I mean, it's not anything too special to me. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. And talking about the whole thing with Dave and all that, and just kind of them clicking, I listened to the two tracks from the Best of Volume 1 yesterday. Can't Get This Stuff No More and Me Wise Magic. And I'll totally agree. I mean, to me, on both of those songs, everything just clicked. It was like all the other stuff they had done in between 1984 was just like not really vanished, but it was like this was the legitimate follow up to 1984. This was it. This was original Van Halen, which I mean it was, of course, with the original lineup, but everything just clicked. It came right into place. And I mean, I totally agree here. I mean, even though it's three out of four originals, I think it still clicked, and I think it was all mainly because everyone got along with one another during this era. And I mean, I'm sure there were some little bits of like snafus or whatever, if that's even a word, of little fights between Dave and Eddie or arguments and stuff. But I mean, they were also older, and so things weren't quite as like ego and all of that wasn't quite as bad as it was back in the day. I think everyone just kind of came together for the best of the band to see and just pretty much said, let's let bygones be bygones and let's just do this. But yeah, the next track on here is Chinatown. So this is an amazing song, one of the best songs on this record. The I was kind of snickering there because one of the lyrics that sticks out for me on this particular song is the opening lyric, headless body and a topless bar. That stuck out to me. And then I love the jam aesthetic to this song. It kind of has this jam band aesthetic to it with Wolfie and Eddie kind of playing off of one another, especially in the opening. I mean, they're in sync and all. I love that. Another line that stuck out to me on this song is "A buck is still a buck in Shanghai." I thought that was really a funny lyric. A very heavy song, probably maybe not the heaviest song on this record, but one of the heaviest songs on here. And then this was one of the songs, along with Tattoo and She's the Woman, that was played on the live album that came out. You said 2015. I always think it was 2016 for some reason. But yeah, that live album I also recommend. I mean, listen to this and that in succession, and I mean, you'll get your Van Halen fix right then and there. And then the lyrics itself are classic Dave. I love the Alex double bass, that classic double bass on this song. And Alex, to me, I mean, on all these records, he's kind of like he's really truly kind of the most valuable player because he's always there. He's in the groove. He's on the beat. He's always there. And I mean that he's the person in the band you can rely on the most in terms of musically. I mean, he's always there. If Eddie wants to just branch off and do something kind of weird during the show or kind of jam, Alex is right there to do it. I mean, he's in the pocket all the time. And probably in terms of like kind of out there song wise, this is probably the most progressive sort of song on here, kind of the more complicated type structure song. Amazing solo, and this was another one that was written for this record. I've also read, I may have seen this on Reddit a long time ago. It may have been Reddit or it may have been a Van Halen forum or something, but I read that this song was a song that was musically for the second album that Sharon was supposed to do with the band. I can't remember the original title, but it said that this song came from those sessions. So I could be totally wrong, but that's what that said. I mean, it may be wrong. I'm not sure where some people get their information, but I thought that was an interesting little fact there. And yeah, Stephen, take Chinatown. I almost got confused.
All right. Well, Chinatown. You mentioned the intro. That wows me every time I hear it. It never fails. I mean, golly. I mean, it's tapping as far as I could tell, and I mean, if you listen to it with earbuds, you can hear that Wolf is just right right there with him. I mean, it's just in sync, just perfectly, and live, it's just as in sync. I mean, just perfectly. And that just showed you that I think this was, you know, I mean, this is showing that their technical, this sheer technical ability. This is the thing that's always been with Van Halen is, the members have always been just technically completely sound, great, great players. And I mean, just this one, I mean, it's just like showing off pretty much. I mean, just a great intro. I mean, that's what sticks out to me. And the rest of the song was great too. But it's like the tendency with this record, it's like they had an idea, you know, okay, Eddie was fooling around and somebody says, "Oh, that's cool." But it can't be a main riff of a song. So they just do the intro and then the song is something completely different. Same thing with a couple of ones coming up here. So we're going to talk about it. But anyway, it's like it's completely separate from itself. But like anyway, the one coming up after this is the same way. But also Chinatown, I really like it all together. The rhythm part is is really, I mean, the verse rhythm. I mean, it just that's quintessential sounding Van Halen, Eddie, and it's I don't know. It sounds like an old school VH album. I mean, for something that could be from that in a way, but also in a way it sounds like this is gonna sound crazy, but something from OU812 in a way, just because that's nobody's gonna believe that, but just because of the tapping part, like the intro, because if you listen to OU812, it had those kind of intros. Like if I'm remembering right, say source of infection or there's a couple of ones like that. Uh, I'm thinking about the wrong one, I think, but you get the idea. And it's just an intro that doesn't have really anything to do with the song. It's just separate, you know. But anyway, it has a really driving rhythm, and the tempo is not too fast, but it's on the verge of being like a runaway train type rhythm. It's the vibe I get from it, and And the solo is just, to me, it's just absolutely masterpiece, perfect. And Wolf Gang matched it up at the end. You can hear the bass part at the very end of the solo match it in, and that's just an example. I mean, you can tell this was planned out to a T. I mean, this was thought out, prepared for probably, I mean, a long, long time. I'm not gonna even speculate how long, but probably a while, because just, I mean, listen to the rhythmic changes, and for the band to be in sync on those crazy changes like that, they had to have planned that out as a band, you know. And the musicianship is just top notch, and this song fully shows that. Is all. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. This is a great song and one of the best on the record. So back to you, Dev.
Alrighty, so we move to the next track, Blood and Fire. So musically, this is an instrumental called Ripley from the, I believe it's called Wildlife movie soundtrack, which was a movie that Eddie scored. And once again, I mean, he was talking about like you're not even going to speculate how long that Chinatown had been in existence. I mean, Eddie never threw away a riff. I mean, there were riffs from the 70s that ended up on some of those Van Hagar albums. I mean, so they never threw anything away. But yeah, this is also from the 2000 sessions. I saw that this was one of those songs from the 2000 sessions with Dave. I love the song, and I love the little throwback to Diamond Dave. Look at all the people here tonight. I love that, and it's kind of nostalgic. This is kind of like Van Halen through the years. You kind of a video could have been made for the song to where you just see the kind of like year by year as the band went by. And I mean, it would have been a really cool video in the way they could have possibly done it. I love the breakdown in the middle of the song where he says, I told you I was coming back. Say you miss me. Say it like you mean it. And then it goes into this solo. That just brings chills down my neck. I mean, I love that. And this may be tied possibly as my favorite song on the record. So, yeah, Steven, take Blood and Fire.
Well, this is another one I was referring to as the intro being completely, separate to itself and something totally different. And I mean, I love the intro. It's really cool. And but it seemed to be kind of a mantra with this record. And I don't know who pushed for that, but that's the way it was. And uh, it's one of those songs that, when after the first part of the intro, just Eddie on guitar, then it comes in with you know with the drums, with Al on drums. It sounds like that it's almost out of time, but it's not, because they intended it that way. It's almost like Get Up. Now, I'm not saying Get Up from 5150 was anything in any other way like this song, but in the fact that the intro, when it came in with the drums, it sounded really, really odd and a little bit out of off, kind of off kilter, but it was just kind of meant that way. I mean, if you can understand what I'm talking about, but it's like it comes across better that way, but you just have to listen to it again, probably see what I mean. But that's just for the intro part. But I mean, it doesn't really matter in this case because it's Van Halen there, and they're technically as technically sound as one can get, But pretty much, and it reminds me of something off of 5150. Besides that, maybe the way it's structured, something like the song 5150. For some reason, just the way it's structured and the way the riff is, and in some ways, and also maybe even the diver down type vibe. You know, just the way it's structured. It's kind of a little bit popish at times. The riff, But other than that, I really like the song. It's again, it's one of the better ones on the record. And but I don't want to say from here on. Well, I will say from here on, uh, it goes downhill for a little while. So so back to you, Devin.
All right, and you was talking about this kind of sounds like something from 5150 or Diver Down. This dates back to 1984, so it's around that time. And I want to say I read somewhere one time that this was possibly put up for 5150 at some point in time. I could be totally wrong. I for some reason recall seeing that this was a song that had potential to be on 5150 or something, or was an early kind of demo or something for 5150 that just was never finished or something. I could be totally wrong, but the next one on here is Bullet Head. So this is another reworking of an old song. I don't think a demo exists for this song. I've only ever heard the live recording from like '76 or whatever. I believe it was in the clubs. And once again, the lyrics, my karma just ran over your dogma. That sticks out as a lyric on the record. And the title of the album is in the lyrics of the song. So, I mean, I kind of like that. And then the lyrics itself, I mean, it's Diamond Dave. I mean, I've heard different ways to describe him. Most of the time, I've heard him as a crap house poet. And pretty much it was it's pretty much equal to him. Just they make sense. His lyrics make sense, but at the same time, it's just like, what is he talking about here? But I mean, everything just fits together so well lyrically. But when you listen to it in context of the song, you're like, okay, if you were reading it, you wouldn't know a thing he was talking about. But if you listen to the song, it totally fits. It's just it's there. And then another lyric that really sticks out for me: I'm rolling slowly, but I'm ahead of you. I like that. And then someday you're the dog, someday you're the hydrant. So I mean, I like it. And then I mean, short and to the point. Probably the shortest song on the record, and I dig it. I think it's great. So Steven, take Bullet Head.
Well, they can. I like the name of the album. That's where they probably got it from. A different kind of truth. I wish they would have kept the name and tossed the song because I hate this song. Not that good. An album track, but it shouldn't have been an album track. It shouldn't have been shouldn't have been on the album. But you get what I'm saying. It's an album track. Uh, Probably. I mean, I don't know what in the world they were thinking with this one. Like, this is one of those I wondered, like when I listened back to it. Oh well, yeah, just yeah, let it pass, whatever, fill up space. But I don't know. It should have been left off by far. And uh, even though this is in essence the title track in a way, um, no. So, but I digress from this horrific topic, and this song is bad. And this is where it starts going downhill, and then it almost doesn't come back up for air, but it finally does. So I'm starting to go back to my old ways, so I better give it back to you, Devin.
Alrighty, so the next track is called As Is. So I love this song. I love the beginning with Eddie and Wolfie playing off of one another. And this is a classic Eddie solo. I love the breakdown where it's kind of twangy, kind of reminds me a bit of Finish What You Started in terms of the tone. And also reminds me a bit of Dave Solo because he kind of got into doing some of those breakdowns and stuff. Like the song would be very heavy and then it would get into something just very light and just basically spoken word type stuff. And I like that. The lyric that sticks out to me is "Let Cupid sort 'em out." I always thought that said like something like it was the Cupid sort of mouth or something like that. It was kind of odd. I had to look up the lyric exactly to figure out what it was. And this is one that supposedly was recorded back in the day for in the 2000 sessions, and I'd love to hear those versions of the song. And that was the original band recording there, and I think they got about midway through the sessions and they shut it down. But someone came out, I can't remember who it was, someone came out and said that they heard the songs that they had done, and I think all of them ended up on here, and the four that stuck out were the ones I've named so far into it from those sessions. And the only four have been announced that were on those sessions. I found that actually kind of interesting, and knowing that those songs were around that long. But the general idea of this song was actually debuted on an episode of the show Two and a Half Men. And I've seen the clip of that. So, Stephen, take As Is.
Well, I think it shouldn't have been as is. Uh, I think it shouldn't have been. I think it should have been as was, and they should have just tossed it out the window and never come back and burn it because this is bad. The intro is bad, but then it gets good in the verse. And if I think this is the one that I'm thinking about. Uh, this I mean there is about 2 or 3 riffs I'm thinking about right now, songs. One of them is from For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and one is from OU812, and one is from a live bit that Eddie did. That kind of he was playing High for Teacher without a singer, so he was just for the verse part he just kind of played something different with it. I mean, he just kind of did the riff a little differently, but it's kind of in that same vein, and it's that, and I can't think of the other songs exactly, but the point of it is the verse riff is really good and it sounds quintessential Eddie, but it sounds like that Dave is just rapping over it. I mean, he's just like he's singing, but it's like he's the way he's talking. He starts talking kind of fast, and it's like, is this rap? I mean, like it gets to a point where I start going, wait a minute, like man, just sing, like. But anyway, so I mean, it's entertaining the spoken word stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. This is like an in between a spoken word and singing, but he can't decide which one to do. But anyway, as is, it's just not good. And I mean, honestly, I just don't know. I mean, and also an untypical type solo by Eddie. All it is a straight tapping part of like let's say 3 notes, and then wait a couple of beats, switch to another 3 notes, stay on that for another measure, and then that's all the solo is 4 times of that. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, it's cool and all the tapping, but I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm putting down Eddie. I think Eddie is really the greatest guitar player of all time, especially in the rock genre. But it seems like Eddie taps just to be tapping sometimes. It's just like when in doubt, he goes to tapping, and it doesn't always go over, but most of the time it does. But in this case, it didn't. But anyway, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't like the song, and it should have been left off. I think this record would have been better if it was, say, 9 tracks. Yeah, I think it would be better if it was 9 tracks and about 3 of these shaved off. And but anyway, I think when you listen to it, it goes by. I don't want to say it goes by slow, but it seems like it takes a while to get through. You're just like, all right, come on, come on. The songs themselves, the structure of it is just going from one thing to another, and it just keeps on and on and on, and it's like Wolfie wants to add all these different parts and stuff, and I'm like, well, it's cool and all, but it's just long. It's like this. It's like going to see the Batman. They had to put all the details in, but it was just long, 3 hours, and it just went too far and stayed too long. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. So the next track on here is Honey Baby Sweetie Doll. So this is another new song. This is another one that dates back to the 2000 sessions with Dave. This is all over the place and very off the wall sounding, but works really good, in my opinion. And this reminds me a lot of the Dave solo stuff. I mean, stuff like the DLR band and like the song Thug Pop from the Diamond Dave record. It reminds me a lot of that. It kind of makes me wonder if some of these songs on this record were actually Dave's songs that he just brought to the band with him and just was like, "Hey, let's do something with this. I have these songs, you guys have these songs. Let's kind of just throw them together and figure out something and arrange it and do this, that, and the other thing to it." This, like I said earlier, "You and Your Blues" is one of them that comes to mind. That would have fit right in on a Dave solo record. But yeah, this also has very hardcore industrial vibes to it. It kind of sounds like Nine Inch Nails, sort of. It's got these weird sound effects all throughout it, and a great solo. I love the solo. It's very, very kind of different for Eddie in terms of it's got like this kind of Egyptian feel to it. Some of the playing Eddie does on here, and I mean, talking about how all over the place this song is, it's even got Dave's dog on this song. You hear just one bark in the middle of the song. It's very interesting and very heavy. Very probably the most heavy metal sounding song on this record. More traditional heavy metal sounding song. So, Steven, I kind of know what you're going to say about this song. Maybe you'll surprise me. Take Honey Baby Sweetie Doll.
Probably not. Um, I mean, track number 8 here. I mean, just the title itself, like, just shows the eccentric. I mean, qualities of of Dave. Um, I mean, just and you was talking about the lyrics. I mean, just Dave overall. Just to talk about that. First of all, I think Devin pays attention to the lyrics a lot more than I do, and but furthermore from that, I mean, I just don't quite never I'm never able to quite understand what any of Dave's songs are ever about, and Dave is like it's like he's incapable of writing a song, you know, like a typical, classic rock song from 70s, 80s, say. That what it's about, or, at least for the most part. I mean, you can just look at any song that he's ever written and take, for example, Jump, or just take any of it. Just take any song and you go, okay, now tell me what this is about here. And you'll I mean, what the overall song is about. I don't know. And but anyway, it's just like it's good, but it's anybody's guess. But it's whatever. It's nothing to complain about, but and it's not horrible, but it's trying to be heavy metal. And but I did get that Egyptian vibe and the yeah. I thought that same thing right when I heard it. And then kind of like the bridge and stuff part to learning to see. Okay, remember learning to see, one of the three off of Best of Both Worlds. The elusive CD I like to never found. I'd like to never caught in Walmart, but I caught it the other day. But that's besides the point. The point of it is, is I mean, learning to see. It's got that heavy part. It's got the clean part, but then it goes into the bridge, and I guess it's the chorus actually, but it's that real heavy. I don't know if it's grunge, but it's just heavy metal type thing. And I guess progressive. I don't know. I don't know the terms, but anyway. And one more thing about it. There's this high screaming guitar sound at the end of the riff, and he does it like a couple of times, like a lot through the song. And I am still, I mean, I'm not sure if anyone can all the way figure out how to do this. Some of this stuff Eddie does. Like I know it's effects, but some of these screams and stuff he does with the guitar, I mean, it just like I have somewhat of an idea, but it's still way beyond me. How he creates these sound effects, or take Intruder for example. You try to recreate that and see where it gets you, but I mean, it's just great stuff, but unrecreatable, But that was quite the little phrase there. But Honey Baby Sweetie Doll, it was not not the not the worst thing. I kind of enjoyed the riff. It's cool riff, main riff, but it's I mean it's 50-50 for me. It's all right. So back to you there.
Alrighty, so the next track on here is The Trouble with Never. So I love the opening. This is classic Van Halen. Such a great song. A lyric that sticks out to me on this particular song is when you turn on your stereo, does it return the favor? And the lyrics are quintessential Dave. Reminds me a bit of Dave's solo, and the classic Van Halen background vocals are in this song. That classic harmony, I mean, all throughout this one. A cool breakdown with a throwback to Dance the Night Away. And another lyric that sticks out to me is selective amnesia is only a heartbeat away. And this is another one that is supposedly from the 2000 sessions. So, Steven, take The Trouble with Never.
Well, I actually really like this one all the way through. This is one of the better ones on the record. And the past couple weren't, but this is one of the better ones. Better, much high quality. And the intro is killer. I mean, this is just a great intro. I mean, if you listen to it, this is another one of those examples of Wolfgang matching it note for note. If you listen, and that is just something that Michael Anthony. It's not like he never did it, but it just wasn't the way he thought about it. I mean, he could have done it if he wanted to. He was good. He was a very good technical player and all, but it's like he didn't think about it that way. But Wolfgang has a different approach. He almost like it almost sounds like he's attacking it when he plays. I mean, that's kind of a far out thing to say, but it's the same thing with Eddie. Eddie even said that about himself. He said when he plays, it sounds like somebody just, I mean, I don't want to say beating on something, but it's just playing full out, you know, just all the way. And it seems like Wolfgang kind of took after his dad in that regard, which is a good thing. But Anyway, so that might sound pretty far out, but I mean, and that's something that that my Michael Anthony. Okay, for example, something like "Light Up the Sky," if you remember, that's why I say Michael Anthony was capable of it. If you listen to the very first part of "Light Up the Sky," that I mean, it could have been Eddie playing, but I don't know. But I'm going to assume it was Michael because I've seen him tap and stuff live some, so I know he can do it. But anyway, so it's kind of gives something for reference. But I mean, he matches Eddie note for note at times, different times with riffs and solos, like I said before. And something else with this record, I don't remember any other record in the history of Van Halen the that that the wah pedal was this predominantly used by Eddie. And there was a time where there was a couple times even Wolfgang used it for the bass. He got very experimental with it. Uh, with the bass and stuff. And but that's one thing, just a little bit of a side note, that Wolfgang never wanted to do a solo live. Like Michael Anthony did. He never wanted to do that. But he said it was because he felt like that the stuff that the material they were playing, especially with that, he had enough parts, you know, with Eddie playing those really hard parts that it didn't really need it. But he didn't really like the idea of doing a solo by himself. But that's besides the point. And you can tell this album was very thought out, like I said before, many parts and changes. Dave mentions "Dance the Night Away," um, and also, and if I had to guess, I would say that they spent forever putting the stuff together. I've already said that, but just to put emphasis and do my verbatim note thing that I always do, part 9, because this is track 9. So my eccentricities will bleed through on this podcast all the time. And Devin is rolling his eyes, so I'll give it back to him.
All righty, so we move to the next track on here, Out of Space. So this is kind of where my notes start running out on here. I mean, I didn't take very many notes for the last few tracks here, but Out of Space, this is classic Van Halen, a reworked version of a song called Let's Get Rockin'. An amazing song and probably tied with Blood and Fire as my favorite song on the record. I really love this song. So Stephen, take Out of Space, not Blood and Fire.
Okay. Well, let's see. Track number 10, straight rock and roll riff. The technical ability and execution from the whole band is great on every track of this particular record, especially. But this song is a dud, unfortunately. Um, the band, what I'm getting at is the band was really good, and like you said, Alex was completely on point. He just rocked it out. I mean, just like double bass stuff, all kind of different stuff throughout the song. Not this record. I mean, I don't remember if this particular one had double bass in it or not, but probably didn't. By luck. But anyway, so I mean, the band was really good. They filled up the spaces, as Eddie says. If there's a space, you fill it up. But in between vocals or whatever. But and if you listen to, like I said, Wolf just adds all kind of bass lead fills all throughout the record. Going into choruses, going into out in and out of verses, and it just enhances it all. But the songs are just, I mean, not every song, but this particular one is an example of the song. It's just not to me that good. But I mean, it's just ridiculous how technically sound this band is and always has been. And people call this band a pop. more pop oriented band. Well, call it whatever you want to, but I mean, this is the most technically sound band. I mean, just you can get, and you can match it. Like say if you get somebody like Steve Vai, he can play this stuff. You know, he can tap, he can shred, whatever. But I mean, Eddie is just top notch. He can play slow if he wants to, make it sound good. He can play fast and he can shred. You know, picking or tapping doesn't matter. He can do whatever he wants to, from what I gather, and he has throughout his career. Um, just about anything he wanted to do, he's done it. And I mean, it's just what's always stuck out to me about this band is the songs are really good, but just the technical ability is just out of this world. And I mean, all these crazy rhythm changes and stuff is what stuck out to me too. It's kind of like I remember that this record doesn't remind me of Balance, but the only way it does is in one way, like that there's a lot of rhythmic weird stuff, cool changes and all kind of weird stuff when it got to the latter half of the album. But kind of the same deal with this, and it seems to me like it was Wolf's idea. In my opinion, I wrote IMO in parentheses, but just to put emphasis on that, so people don't, just take stuff the wrong way. But this is opinion, but or what I speculate. But it seems like stuff that was never done before probably had a lot to do with Wolf. But anyway, this song is not that good. So back to you, Devin.
Alrighty, so the next track on here is Stay Frosty. So this is another new song, a great throwback to Ice Cream Man. Dave on acoustic, of course, and this also kind of reminds me of Solo Dave. And you want to be a monk, you got to cook a lot of rice. That's a lyric that stuck out to me on this track. Awesome song. Classic Dave scream. So this is, I believe there may have been one on Honey Baby Sweetie Doll because there's so much going on in that song. I think there is one of the classic Dave screams on that particular track, but there's definitely one here. I heard it. And Wolfgang said in the interview I saw earlier about when he compared You and Your Blues to a Hagar song or Hagar era, he said this was completely Dave's idea, and it totally sounds like it. So yeah, I love the song. I mean, this one it kind of seems like some people are like, "Oh man, this is a rip off of Ice Cream Man. I hate this song." I mean, I like it because it's a takeoff of Ice Cream Man. It's pretty much a sequel song, even though Ice Cream Man wasn't an original Van Halen track, but they made it their track, and it's iconic because of what they did with it. But yeah, I love it. So Steven, take Stay Frosty.
Well, I mean, that's all I could think about was like, sister song to Ice Cream Man. I mean, just the way it was structured, I mean, the way the way that Dave just played acoustic, and then the way the band came in, it's just, and the way they played it all out, just exactly to a T almost, just like Ice Cream Man. I mean, he played the rhythm part the same. I mean, Eddie the same, just about way. But besides the point, the point is it's an enjoyable track, but it's an album track, and I mean, I don't know. It's just not something I would sit there and go, wait a minute, I want to go listen to Stay Frosty. That's a catchy, good song. No, I mean it's something that kind of goes good with the album, and if you know the background, you can like it a lot more. But if you don't know the background of Van Halen, if you just heard this song, probably wouldn't have the same effect. If you don't understand, you know, and I don't totally understand it all, but you know, most of it I do. And I think Dave makes a lot of references and stuff, and he has a lot of comical lyrics, and that kind of stuck out. But I mean, a lot of the references I probably just don't get. But I mean, that's besides the point. I knew that this was, a kind of a sequel or sister song or whatever you want to say to Ice Cream Man, and maybe it was just trying a little too hard to do throwbacks. It seemed like this is an album of throwbacks, and I'm going to talk about a major one coming up with the last track, a major throwback. But you know, we'll get to that later. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. So the next track on here is Big River. So this is a reworking of a song called Big Trouble, which the title, oddly enough, ended up on Eat 'em and Smile, David Lee Roth's first solo record. And I love this song. It's classic Van Halen. I mean, that's pretty much all I have really for this particular song. I mean, like I said, my notes run kind of short getting toward the end of the album, but I really do like this song quite a bit. So, Steve, take Big River.
Well, I actually really like this one. This is of the better half of the album. I mean, of the better of the sorts of the tracks. But um, I like the intro. This is another one, like I was talking about before. Same thing as before. We're talking about a couple of songs like Blood and Fire, for example, does the same exact thing. It has the guitar, very short guitar intro, then it goes into something completely different that has nothing to do with it. I mean, see what I mean? It's like it's something about this record that and throwbacks was that's what they were going for. Going through this, like trying to go through this memory lane of sorts of wanting to go back and make all these throwbacks. And uh I mean, I think it turns out pretty good. I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of it. And seeing as Dave getting back with him and all, I mean that's a good idea. I mean, from that standpoint. But Big River itself is a really good song. I really like it, and it's just a straight rock intro, really good song. And it sounds something straight from the 70s, or 80s, something like that. Just sounds straight out of the bucket. But I mean, this is one of the best by far on the record here. And like I said, this could have been right out of Van Halen 2 or something like that. I mean, just fits right along with any of that classic stuff. You can tell it was something probably from way back. But I mean, like you said, I don't know why some of this stuff got passed up. I have no idea because it's really up there to me with the great Van Halen riffs. And this for example is one of them that the riff is really that good, and it's up there. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. So we close this album out with Beach Working. So a great closer, the final song of the studio Van Halen catalog. This was a reworking of a song called Put Out the Lights, and I absolutely love the song. I think this is a great track, and I saw Wolfie in the same interview I was talking about earlier. He said he thought this was a good farewell to Van Halen. He thought this summed up his dad's career pretty much. His dad's legacy and what all he had done for the state of rock and roll, and or I guess state of rock and roll at the time, and just kind of rock and roll in the genre in general. And I mean, It's great. It's kind of like Blood and Fire in a way. It kind of gets you sort of nostalgic and kind of emotional because I mean now this is the final Van Halen song, and I love it. I think it's a great closer to not only this album but to the Van Halen discography. So Steven, take Beats Working.
Well, I've never thought about it that way, to be honest. I've thought about it as this is an epic, turn it up all the way song and listen to it with some earbuds. This is a great song. This is the best song on the album, and I really like this one. And I don't know if anybody else would picks up on this. Probably does, but now it's not identical to the Dead or Alive riff from Van Halen 2. I think it is, but uh, I mean, just if you knew that how the chords went and you play guitar and you seen it, it's the same. It's the same chord, and it's really a throwback to Dead or Alive, and you know, or either I say throwback, but it could have been something more than likely. It was a riff from way back that they kind of evolved and took this part and put it into this and used this for that, swapped it around. You know what I'm saying? It's a throwback from back in the day and changed up, But who knows? But I really do think I mean, every time I hear it, that's what I think of is Dead or Alive. Um, and and I like it. I like it as an album closer. I really do. I like the song in general, but um, as an album closer also, and it sounds like something right out of Van Halen 2, mainly because it sounds like Dead or Alive. But I just that's by far my favorite off the record right there, just personally. And I don't know. I mean, it's like okay, beats working. I don't know what the heck it's about. Who cares? It's a great riff. Who cares? So back to you.
Alrighty, so yeah, that's it. That's the record. So I mean, this is to me is a solid 10 out of 10. I love this record. Listening to it, preparing for this episode, I think I love it more now than I ever have. I love this record. I think this is such a great album. It was a great capper to the Van Halen discography as a whole. I think this was the album they should if they were going to go out on an album, this is the album they should have went out on because this is a great this is pretty much right in line to those first several albums. I mean, this is going right directly in that same vein and everything. This is the definition. I put this out on Facebook today when I was preparing for this review and all. This is the definition of a comeback album. This to me, any bands who are thinking about making this big comeback album need to put this record on and listen to it because this is how it's done. They took all of the kind of classic sound and basically did it in a whole other era. And I mean, there were some modern twists here and there throughout the record, stuff like You and Your Blues and like Honey Baby Sweetie Doll, stuff like that. But at the center of it all, it's classic Van Halen. I mean, it's David Lee Roth, Eddie, Alex, and Wolfgang. Would I have loved Michael Anthony to have been there? Yes, I would have loved it to have been all five of them. But I mean, it just didn't pan out that way. I mean, Wolfgang is a great enough bass player. I mean, he did the job. He got it done, and he did a fantastic job of it. I mean, he would he's the person I'd rather have on bass if Michael Anthony wasn't there. I would rather have him there instead of some weird off the wall bass tech or something. I mean, I would have much preferred them to have kept it in the family like they did. And I mean, this was 3 out of 4 members that were of the Van Halen family. So I mean, right there. I mean, it's Van Halen. It's Van Halen through and through. So yeah, I love this record. Like I said, 10 out of 10. I mean, just such a great record. Great comeback album, great reunion album, probably the best reunion album of all time, in my opinion. I love this record so much. So, Stephen, what are your final thoughts, opinions on this record?
Well, I would like to say that I mean that's what kept crossing my mind, like with the live album too, and as well as this record. I mean, it's literally three. The band is Van Halen's, and then a singer. I mean, that's what it is. And I really, I mean, I like the idea of that, but at the same time, it keeps crossing my mind sometimes about how it really wasn't fair to Michael Anthony. You know, because Sammy always said, and I believe him, that Michael never did anything, against them, against the Van Halen's brothers, you know, against anybody, pretty much. And he was, consistent. He was always, the most one of the most consistent things about the whole deal, uh, and yet, you know, they're gonna replace him just because Eddie brings in his son. But another thing I would like to say, well, you know, he probably has a right to, because look at the name of the band. That's what I always go back to. I mean, if I mean it's the Van Halen brothers' band, and that's the way I look at it. That's very arguable, but it's whatever. I mean, look at the name of the band. It's the rhythm. I mean, not totally the rhythm section, but that's. I mean, but something else I would like to point out: the Van Halen band. The band sound of Van Halen is such a big sound. You know, no matter whether it's live or whether it's studio, it's such a big sound, and yet it's only three players. You know, with studio it's overdubs, but yeah, it doesn't matter really because live it still sounds really big. It's like, you know, any of these three group or three or four with a lead singer, say, you know, or I don't know, maybe even five. It's amazing to me how they can make three guys playing instruments have that big of a sound, production wise. Production has went a long way. I will say that, and from the '60s, and I like the production on the record, and but I do like this and the live album with Wolfgang on it, and he's great. He's really good bass player, and I really like his work and all. He does a really good job overall. But I don't know. You get what I'm saying. But after all, they do have a right. But you know, I'd say 9 out of 10, and I'd say very listenable. You know, as an album. But it does kind of. The reason I say 9 out of 10 is, I mean, that's very generous. I mean, from my point of view, because I'm seeing about 3 or 4 songs that should have been left off, and I'd say 4 songs cut out have 9 tracks. That's what I say. And I'm not going to say which ones because I mean you can probably go back and listen, and that'd be the ones, the ones I didn't like. But anyway, so I mean 9 out of 10. There you go. And by the way, Devin, you had mentioned something like about what year that the live album came out. I don't know for sure what year. I just thought I remembered you saying that, but I really don't know for sure what year. I've never actually seen it anywhere. But all I've ever seen was on the YouTube video. It says 2013. live at Tokyo Dome. On all the titles. But that's just what it when it was recorded. But anyway, it's just way besides the point. But yes, 9 out of 10, and enjoyable. So back to you.
Alrighty, and it was released in 2015, March 31st, 2015. And just piggybacking off of that, listen to that live album. I mean, I don't care what the people say about Dave sounds like crap and I thought Dave actually didn't sound that bad on it. And I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, Dave's horrible." I mean, a lot of people say he's not Sammy, but I thought he sounded good. I really loved that live album. Now, granted, it's been a while since I've heard it, but the last time I listened to it, I loved it. I thought it was great. I remember when I first got it, I didn't get it all the way because of Dave's voice mainly. It wasn't quite what I expected in terms of his voice and all. But over the years, I mean, listening to it, I mean, the band itself as a whole on that record are firing on all cylinders. I mean, it's unreal during parts of that record. But yeah, that is a definite pick of the week or a definite pick to go along with this record. I mean, it's the last Van Halen release overall, but I mean, it's just such a great record. And I mean, that even if you're going by the discography as a whole, I mean, that's a great capper to the discography. I mean, I've seen some people say like that was Eddie's peak as a guitar player. I've seen people say like that was the peak of Eddie during that era. And I mean, he was at the top of his game for sure during that era. I mean, I would have loved to have maybe gotten another album after this, but I mean, unfortunately, what happened happened. I mean, I'm very interested to see when and if Wolfie ever goes in and goes through the vaults and stuff. Maybe something we can get. Maybe we've never heard, or the demos remixed, remastered, or something. I know they are doing a remaster of the first six albums, but no Hagar albums at all. That was they've not remastered those. They're just the same releases from the 80s or 90s, whatever. I know they're reissued all the time, but yeah, I mean, great stuff all around. As a discography itself, I mean, I totally recommend you checking out the entire discography, and we'll probably go and do the live in Tokyo or live at Tokyo Dome live album at some point because that's a really good live album. And so, yeah, now we'll go in. My goodness, I can't talk. So, yeah, now we will go into our picks of the week. So, Steven, I'm going to let you go first unless you don't have a pick of the week. Steve, what are your picks of the week, movie and music wise?
Well, uh, my pick movie wise would be the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix, which I enjoyed it, and it's kind of like a new hip version of probably about the same thing, but I liked it, and I think Devin's seen it too. But um, and then for for music, I would say this is going to be not anything to do with Van Halen, but I've the other day I was just riding in the car and I was like, maybe I'll listen to some Stevie Ray Vaughan. Couldn't stand the weather, and I started listening to the I think it's called maybe Legacy Edition or something like that on there on YouTube. And I started, I heard it all the way through, and then it started getting into the bonus tracks, and this is really, really, really good stuff. I mean, Stevie Ray, yes, one of the best blues guys. If you listen to, to me, that might be his best record. Couldn't stand the weather because it was as closest it might have got to him playing, like his energy live, but yet that slow playing that slow blues stuff. I mean, it's a really good, really good record. So that one too, I would suggest you go check out. I know it's not nothing new, but just you know, just go listen to it. You'll see what I mean. So anyway, back to you, Doug.
All righty. So my movie pick of the week. This is one I just watched today for the first time, and I'd heard lots of things about this movie. I know it was cut to shreds at the time. It was not the director's intended version, but I think he still just took it and went with it for what it was. And that is Event Horizon from 1997. And it's a science fiction horror film, very, very messed up in parts of the movie. It's very much. I've heard people compare it to Hellraiser in a lot of ways, and they say like this was Hellraiser in space done right, and I probably agree. I think it does have that vibe to it, and I recommend you watching that, especially if you're. I mean, if you're a horror fan. I mean, don't I wouldn't recommend some random person that's never seen a horror film walk out there or go out there and watch this movie because it is it is a watch for sure, but I really did enjoy the film. And I mean, in terms of a horror film, I think it does its job perfectly. It's also very of the time as well. And I mean, I like a lot of late 90s horror films, and it's in that era. I don't think it's like post Scream or anything like that, but still, really, really cool stuff. And yeah, supposedly for it to be like a real dark film, the original cut was supposedly darker than that. So I'll be maybe one day we'll get a director's cut of it. And the chances have been said that it's highly unlikely, but who knows at this point? I mean, things happen. So, my music pick of the week is the newly released Kiss Off the Soundboard Virginia Beach 2004. So I'm going to probably do a review of this by itself here coming soon, but I really, really enjoyed this. I mean, I listened to this the day it came in, the day it came out, actually, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great album all the way through, and I'm looking forward to the next releases that they do for this series. I mean, definitely I understand the gripes, and this was definitely a release split down the middle. I think people were mainly looking for something vintage Kiss instead of something more modern, and I totally agree. I mean, give us something from the 70s or 80s or something instead of something from like the current lineup and stuff. But I knew that was going to happen at some point. I knew with this series they weren't going to skimp on the current lineup. But I've heard they're going to do one of these in each quarter of the year, so the next one should come out in around maybe June or July. And then there's supposed to be 4 releases total this year. If that's true, I saw it online, so I'm not sure. It could be a false thing, but I've heard that that was the case, that it was for all 4 quarters of the year. So yeah, that's my recommendation CD wise. So yeah, that is the episode. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share this video, give us some feedback in the comments, and God bless you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay free, and stay frosty. And as I always say to close this out, Stephen, take it away.
See you next time.
All right, guys. See you later.